Now, in what could be one of the biggest attacks on iPhone users ever, Google has warned malicious hackers have been monitoring data of iPhone users out users. Now, in what could be one of the biggest attacks on iPhone users ever, Google has warned malicious hackers have been monitoring data of iPhone users for years without being discovered. Well, it's often scary not knowing who or what has access to your data, but there are so-called ethical hackers out there who make it their mission to uncover flaws in security systems so they can be fixed. Mark Litchfield is a bug bounty who managed to become a millionaire for reporting glitches. So what's the difference between malicious and ethical hackers, and how can we stay safe online? Well, Guy Cocker is a technology expert and journalist. Guy, good to see you. I mean, firstly, should we be surprised by this idea that hackers have been harvesting our iPhone photos and our contact details for a number of years?
Not really. I'm sure you know from using your phone and from seeing other people using their devices now, the way that we're using technology has changed and it's become all about mobile devices. So, you know, I would imagine Sky News' website is about 60 to 70% access from mobile devices, which means that just people are on them all the time. And if you're a hacker and you want to exploit someone, you're going to go for their mobile device, sadly.
Yeah, well, I mean, what are they doing with this information? I mean, is it for blackmail? Is it for bribery? Is it for fraud, or even like influencing our opinions on things? I mean, we've seen the scandal with Cambridge Analytica, for example.
Yeah, I mean, it can be for a number of reasons, really. You've had hacks in the past that have targeted celebrities to access their private photos and post them publicly. You've had people who use platforms like 4chan and Reddit who will access user information and then sell it en masse, so you can access someone's data for, say, $10 a go. And also you get it just for the challenge of it. There's the hacking community out there likes to do one-upmanship. And so if they get access to, say, millions of people's iPhones, then that gets them notoriety within the industry. So there's a number of reasons.
How do we keep ourselves safe?
It's really difficult, and it's a challenge not just for the manufacturers of these devices, but also for us as consumers as well. There are a number of things that you can do just to make sure that you're practicing good, I guess, digital responsibilities. So I would heavily suggest that you keep your phone up to date. When you get that little annoying reminder that says the latest software is ready for updating, just click that and update it, because that means that Apple and Google and the other providers are updating their software to eradicate these weaknesses. I would also obviously try as much as possible to stay away from dodgy-looking websites and dodgy-looking emails, and you can get lots of routers and antivirus software that will prevent you from accessing those sites. And then if you've got children in the house, just make sure that you're controlling the parental controls, because a lot of people's devices can get accessed in that way, because kids could be accessing something that you might not know about. So.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny. There was a time that you'd walk into a shop and the advice you'd be given is that Apple products are perhaps more safer than Microsoft products, but that doesn't seem to be the case so much these days.
Yeah, I remember that distinctly. I've been a technology journalist for about 15 years, and I remember Apple products were notorious for being more secure than Microsoft products. But this was a long time ago now, and that was when Microsoft devices were the prevalent. Everyone was using a Windows PC rather than a Mac. And Apple has become so popular now through its iPad and iPhone, and anecdotally, I've got an iPhone, you've got an iPhone, I've seen other people in the building using iPhones as well, that is now, that the iPhone roughly represents about 30% of all phones platforms that are out there. So it's a huge market of people, and if you even, manage to exploit 0.1% of them, that's still a massive number of people now.
And what about the ethics behind all of this? I mean, we're in a situation here where you've got Google, for example, who are now accessing Apple's software, and that can be vice versa as well, presumably.
Yeah.
I mean, who watches the watchers?
Right. Well, it's because, there's banks out there like Goldman Sachs, there's technology providers like Apple and Google, who are, we have to remember, some of the cash richest and biggest companies in the world, Amazon as well. So they don't want to get exploited. And as we saw last year with the British Airways hack, that now falls foul of GDPR, which is European data protection laws. So not only do you, if you get hacked now as a company, you get access to lots of people's credit cards and personal information, but then you get the legal and the PR disaster after it. It's a massively costly thing for any company to go through.
And so we're all in the wrong line of work now. We should be looking to go into ethical hacking, because that's where all the money is, apparently.
Well, this guy, Mr. Litchfield, who now he's a Brit, he lives in Vegas, he's the second person person after a Brazilian 19-year-old to make $1 million from ethical hacking. He says it's very easy. So I think I'm going to be going into that line of work.
I mean, how important is that line of work? Because, I mean, one figure that I've seen is that payments have gone up by 60%.
Yeah, so there are a number of companies out there that are employed by the likes of Apple and Google for what you just described, which is ethical hacking. And they put bounties on. If you're a hacker and you find an exploit that could be used and you make that company aware of it, they will give you thousands of dollars as a thank you. And it's possible to make a very good living out of doing this. Yeah. So that hopefully there are more of those ethical hackers out there than the nefarious ones that are looking to get our credit card.
It's fascinating for me because, you know, again, it goes back to that question, well, who watches the watchers? I mean, you've got the ethical hackers, they might be earning some cash, you know, legitimately, but who knows what they're doing illegitimately, you know, in their own time.
Yeah, exactly. And actually, you were saying there that Google employ these sort of black hackers to go out there and sort of hack not just their own platforms, but other platforms as well. They then alerted Apple that there was this security flaw in the iPhone that was giving away all data, including your passwords, your credit card, your location. It was updating every 60 seconds to these hackers. They alerted Apple February the 1st, and they had that loophole closed on February the 7th. But there was still a big period there that they were able to access that data. And the only way to get around it was to reset your phone, which I personally never really do. So that's why it's so important to keep your phone up to date.
And finally, Guy, I mean, so what does the future hold for, you know, kids who want to go into this line of work? Because presumably this is a profitable industry to get yourself involved in.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's a huge industry in general. I mean, you've got a lot of people out there that want to be YouTube bloggers, but there's a huge market out there, as we just found out for this British guy that's earned $1 million from hacking, from finding these exploits and making the companies aware. And it's a legitimate line of work. And I would highly encourage anyone that wants to make a difference in the digital world to go out and use their skills if they're efficient in hacking. And I imagine it could be quite fun finding those exploits and getting paid for it.
Indeed. Fascinating stuff. Guy, good to speak to you. Guy Cocker, technology expert and journalist. Thank you. Check now on the web.